South Africa or Africa, I'm always so traumatized. Like, seriously, it bothers me and it traumatizes me every time I get a clip and I just listen to an African man talk, like African American men, the toxic ones, talk about their women the way that they do. Like, it baffles me. It, like, I'm traumatized by the idea that you would get a microphone and you will speak such things about your women. I don't care if she weighs 400 pounds, 200 pounds. I do not care. The way that you talk about these women, you demonize them, you just, you don't, it's like you're not talking about a human being who has feelings and who has a heart. And listen, you can go to these other countries, you can go to South Africa, you can go to Kenya, you can go to Nigeria, and you can go to the Philippines. Most likely you're going to get the poor woman who it can't wait to escape from poverty. You are a predator because you know that woman is not going to leave. You can abuse them, you can cheat on them, you can treat them like garbage, but it will be better for them to be sitting in your home being treated like garbage because they don't have any other plan. They would rather stay here, take the money, support their family back home than go back there. So they will take your nonsense, and that's evil. That's not really submission. They're not submitting to you because submission, you know what submission is like? It's like knowing that your wife has 5 degrees, she makes more money than you, but when she's at home, she's a wife. Like, neighbors don't even know that she makes more. Neighbors don't even know that like, she treats you like a king regardless of how much you bring it home. You could bring more, she could bring more, but she will still treat you like a king. Submission is something that is voluntary. It comes out of a place of respect and honor for the men that you are married, not out of control. And so
Mm.
if you think that like these women are being submissive to you, no, they are just tolerating you because they don't
Oh,
have any other option. And you
okay.
know that your little insecure self knows that because you know if she had a way out, she would leave. If you know if she
Mm.
was educated, had a career, spoke English, and had a degree, she would not tolerate you. She would not tolerate the way that you do. So you will
Mm.
go and you will pick the one, the most vulnerable, and that makes you a predator. I
Wow. Okay. You know what? I like to talk about these subjects. I think it's important to shed some light on them. I think it's also important to break down these things in context. So, obviously, I've been kind of doing my little bit of research on Passport Bros, watching several different videos, trying to get different perspectives on what people feel about Passport Bros. And I find it quite interesting because one of the main headlines or topics or the hashtags I've been seeing of late is Passport Bros are predators. And I was like, okay, let me kind of see what's really going on. I found it quite interesting because even in her kind of disposition, I mean, in her breakdown of what she felt Passport Bros are being predators for, she went to the most heinous, evilest, nastiest, most cruelest person who's going abroad to do these things to women. And for me, it's like, why did you take the worst of the bunch to then explain how the rest of them are moving? Like, I talk about this selection bias that people do to try and create the madness. Look, as far as I'm concerned, if people are going abroad, they're having relations with women, maybe marrying them, whatever, whatever. All right, that's your business. Who am I to say anything? That's your business. But of course, if you are going over there and you are impregnating women and you are, doing those kind of stuff, yeah, where you treat women badly, nobody wants to see that in any form of country. But I'm so confused as to her saying about the financial disparity of between men and women in terms of obviously men coming from American African American community coming into America and them forcibly having women in situations where the woman can't leave. Do you know that's the plight of what people are? That is the plight. That is not long ago. We had the same plight in our developed countries. It's got nothing to do. It's to do with economical power, and it's to do with obviously access to resources, which I agree with her. Right? It's to do with education. I agree with her. Right? As well. So I'm not disputing that. But my issue with this is the assumption that that is what all these people are doing. I find it. I find it ignoramus when you do that. Like, why do you assume that every single man of that is doing that? And my biggest issue too again is this: why is it that as soon as Passport Bros and it's black men that made it popular, and I want to say popular in terms of mainstream media, suddenly you have a whole host of people coming against Passport Bros, when we know for sure there has been so many other races who do it as well, specifically white folk, right? Specifically, white folk are out here in them streets, okay, going to other continents, going to marry these women or even sleep with them, and yet you didn't come out then, and that's why I find it a double. I find it a bit like hypocritical. You have all this energy, and it's the same thing that I said about the black men talking about black women. It's like, okay, black men have this vitriol for black women. Okay, I condone that. I condemn that too. And then you have black women coming out and trying to fight Passport Bros, and it's like you're putting all these emphasis. Predators, they are sex trafficking, they're doing all this stuff, and it's like, hey, one or two people might be doing that kind of thing, but let's not label the whole of them. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Let's not label the whole of them. It's so annoying when I see that, especially when it's selection bias as well. And it gets frustrating sometimes. Let me show you another clip of us talking. Since we're doing this, look at this.
American dating culture. Because if you're being treated disrespectful, guys, the Passport Bros are the good men who are tired about the American dating culture. Because if you're being treated disrespectfully when you're trying to put as much respect as you can, when the relationship seems to be transactional and can be replaced by somebody who makes more money than you, when resilience is not the foundation of the society anymore, which means that in a dark situation, a relationship doesn't fight through it, but it simply easily crumbles because replacement is easier than fighting. The Passport Bro takes the passport and goes outside in a society that still has good values. This is why the concept of Passport Bro is growing stronger and stronger. As an Italian living in America, who, let's say, does not lack experience. I'm an Italian model living in America. Do I take advantage of my, let's say, situation, appearance, and everything? Hell yeah, I do. Do I analyze everything? Hell yeah, I do. Hence why I say that I understand the American Passport Bro who's tired about the American dating situation. Guys, the Passport Bros are the good men who are tired about the American.
So you can see quite clearly here, it's not a black thing, baby. Okay, it's not a black thing. This is happening across the board. And I'm not saying I agree with all these men. I'm saying to you that this is happening across the board. And I keep saying this, within our black community, we only access content oftentimes within our own community. We don't see what other races are doing. It's happening across the board. White, Asian, whatever other you want to call it, Latino, whatever you want to call it. They are all doing it, right? Because they're men. And men migrate to where they're going to be, quote unquote, appreciated, and where, quote unquote, they can have the most, I guess, what do you want to say, most power in a situation, right? A lot of men tend to move and migrate to places where they can have power. Naturally, because that's how men tend to do. They try to dominate situations, right? So, of course, I understand. Me personally, I don't necessarily need to go overseas and find a wife. There's women that we can get here in my own country. Do you know what I mean? But then, like I said, I think it's a bit hypocritical. Some of the comments that I do see, in the situation, because, like I said, there is always going to be a case. Okay, so let's say men go overseas and they end up sleeping with women. What do you want to do? They only sleep with poor women. They only sleep with women that are uneducated. I mean, again, if they're in your home country, who do they sleep with? You know what I mean? It's all about. I keep saying this, but all about the economics of dating. If I'm Chris Brown, I get to have a whole plethora of women simply not because I'm a great guy, simply because of my status. So am I being a predator at that point? Because my status and my power and my wealth gives me absolute leverage over people. But to Chris Brown, to me, I'm poor. You know what I mean? Like, of course, that's been a bit cheeky in terms of the comparison between here and Africa, or here in a country that maybe the GDP is considerably lower for a lot of people, right? But the principle and what I'm talking about is somebody having an immense amount of power in this situation. If he chooses a woman that's not in the same kind of financial, legal status and power, is he being predatory? Is Chris Brown being predatory if he chooses a girl who's not a singer or a musician or an actor or anything? Is he being predatory at that point? Because the wage gap is huge. The power he has, huge. Status he has, huge. Right? And you leaving Chris Brown, you're gonna find it hard to leave Chris Brown. But would we call it predatory? I don't think we would. I do take into account the nuance of the fact that, again, men go into a country where the GDP is considerably lower. I do understand that aspect, right? But I think we've got to be very careful how we label things and how we label people. And be very, very careful how we put those very heavy titles of what behavior is onto people, because I think it's easy to jump on a bandwagon and be like, yeah, these men are predatory, da 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 da. It's like, you've got to be very, very careful. Just because of how you feel about a situation doesn't necessarily mean that's the truth of the situation. Being objective about the situation, right? That's another one.
Suddenly going after African women are doing so because they know that the African system always favors the man above the woman. They know that they can easily impregnate a woman and not have to worry about things like child support, and they can also divorce without worrying about things like alimony, especially when that.
Let's pause it right there. This happens whether you African, whether you passport bros, whether you anything. I come from Africa, okay, and I know that the men can just leave whenever they want to too. The very same men you're talking about are saying is that it's not an African American issue; it's a men issue. Man in Africa who doesn't even earn much can sleep with you and leave you. Please, let's not pretend. He can sleep with you, you get pregnant and leave. So in that instance, it happens. It can happen in that instance. Do you know what I'm saying? So it happens across the board. I'm not saying it's not one way. My thing is, stop labeling a whole thing. It happens across the board. There are powerful men in Africa too who do the exact same thing. Who can sleep with somebody, impregnate them, and then even cause them to have abortion. Well, I just find it disingenuous when we only label one particular group that particular way, and we're not labeling the whole of the aspect. But let's go back into the video because I think it's some good points.
And that lady is from a poor home. They want the benefits the African women bring to the home, but what benefits do they themselves offer? I see them online talking about 50-50 and still in the same sentence expect things like submission from the woman, respect, and a whole bunch of things. They expect Black women to split bills with them while taking care of the family, while raising the kids, while doing their house chores, cleaning, and a whole lot of things, while they themselves do nothing apart from paying half of the family bills. It's more like they're running from their responsibilities, but they do not seem to understand that it doesn't work that way in Africa. In fact, before you can even marry in certain African tribes, you definitely have to pay things like dowry and expensive dowries for that matter. So you have to be prepared before you go into things like marriage. Even after getting.
Now, it's a great point she's making here about the dowry situation, that you have to pay before you get into that situation. Yeah, but the way that I'm going to pay in a dowry, I'm going to pay in Africa, is not going to be saying I'm going to pay it here in UK. You don't know. People don't know. Some of the lobola and some of the dowry that I've heard that people have been charging is a madness. Okay, 15K, 10K, 30K. I've heard as lobola or dowry that you're coming to pay. You're already in debt before you even start marrying. I'm not saying that's every situation, by the way. A lot of people are very, very. A lot of people, families are very, very respectful and are very understanding, and they even give the money back. So it's not a big deal. That what I'm saying is, like, I get what she's saying, but the system that she's talking about is still the same system. Men are in control. There is no difference. Here's the difference. If I take my if I take my £3,000 a month job, and I can work remotely and I can go to Africa, right? This makes me, depending on what your economy is, right, very wealthy in that aspect. In fact, let me translate it to even in Ghana. Okay, let me do dollars to Ghana cities. Okay, and you'll see why this is such an interesting thing, right? Okay, so let me put this in. Okay, so we got one Ghana city to 12, $1 to 12 Ghana cities right now. Okay, let's put 3,000. Okay, so 3,000 Ghana cities is going to earn you 36,444 Ghana cities, which is mad, right? Mad. Is it 36,000 or 36 million? Yeah, I can't even calculate that thing. Go. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, it's 36,000, which is mad. It's a lot of money. You suddenly become a high age earner. You suddenly become a high earner. So you transporting your finances that you earn in America or even in UK, and you go into Africa, or you go into another economy where, of course, the economy is much less. You become a high earner. Therefore, I keep saying this. There's a game. And I hate that people pretend they don't know the game. The game is women are looking for security. Finance is a part of that security. So if you can be in another pool where you become a king and be appreciated, people are going to go there. People will choose to go there. Not every person will go there. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? Not every person will go there, but some people will. Um, you know, so the reality is, that again, financially in the market, you could potentially go from being a pauper in your home country to being a king in your mainland country, in another country. And then therefore that opens up more options to women than it does when you stay in your homeland. It is what it is. It is what it is. You know what I mean? It happens. It's the market, economics of dating, right? And to say, obviously, again, is it that these people are solely looking for a green card? You know what? And people are looking for a come up. We call them gold diggers. You know what I mean? We call them gold diggers. People are looking for a come up all the time. And let's not pretend as if that finances doesn't play a huge part in how women make decisions in terms of dating. It makes a huge difference. And it is what it is, right? The reality of it is that if I can get the real reality is this: if the women they were getting were not good quality women in terms of looks, we're talking about in terms of looks now. If the quality of, because you have to understand the quality of woman that has a look in, let's say, for instance, let me just say Ghana, let's say Ghana, right? If you were to find the equivalent in UK, the market price goes up. Just it shoots up automatically, right? If they had the same skill set, same education, but different, obviously, but in different country and pools, the market completely changes. The market completely changes at that point, right? So you have the same girl, but because she's born and bred in America, her market changes because the way the market structure is, how people place themselves within that market. In Africa, it's completely different because obviously, like, again, the opportunities, everything like that, it means that the market price is completely different. So when you take your money over to there, you can have the equivalent girl that you couldn't access in this country. That's the reality. That's the real reality. The girl who you can get in let's say quote unquote Ghana, you couldn't get in America because she would require an X amount of money. So that's what I said. It's about the market of economy. It's about the economic dating aspect, and understanding that your money can only take you so far. You know what I'm saying? Your money can only take you so far. And again, like I said, I mean, if these men are doing 50-50 in Africa, that would be wild to me. I don't think they are personally, because again, financially wise, you're well off, much more well off there. And most men do want to provide. The issue is, I said it before, is that they're so close to their limit, it makes them feel uncomfortable. A lot of men don't earn enough to be able to have enough disposable income to become this quote unquote sole provider. But we have an ego. and a lot of men have egos. And so going to Africa, going to Thailand, going to DR, and going to all these different countries, um, you know, unfortunately, that's what they can quote unquote become kings over there as well. Let's have a look at this as well. 11.1. Oh, had it finished?
Getting married to an African woman, you have to take care of your responsibilities if you want respect from that woman, her family, and society. Because if you don't, you'll be looked down upon. See them saying things like they run away from America, go to Africa, pick a wife, and then live in Africa. They think that being a man in Africa is a day's job. See African women giving African men respect and submitting to them, and you think that they didn't earn it. Many African men take care of themselves, their family, their children. They still take care of their parents. They still sometimes take care of the parents of their wives, their siblings too, if their siblings are not grown. These men do a lot. And when you see them being respected, they are respected because they earned it. For the baby mama and
And again, I find it a little bit cheeky too, because I feel like this argument to talk about the respect part is also true, but the other aspect is we live. Let's be real. You want to talk about patriarchal standards? You want to talk about misogynistic standards? We uphold a lot of that in Africa. Just gonna be real with you. Let's be freaking real. And I think that's why I find it a bit problematic. It's like you're choosing specific aspects to want to speak about, to bring it as an argument against the men coming. I'm like, yo, we have the same issues in Africa. We have the same issues in Africa. The thing that you're talking about, the same issues in Africa. There are so many people living in poverty. So when you're saying that people look after their families, you're absolutely right. But a lot of us are living in poverty. I say a lot of us. I shouldn't even say a lot of us. A lot of people, on a day-to-day are suffering just like they're suffering in the main countries, right? They want to do these things, but they can't because financially it's difficult. Very, very difficult, right? So she's actually right. Yes, the respect comes because these men take care of responsibilities, but that's everywhere. If you're a man and you do your job and you look after your family, you look after those who you say you love, that's the role of a man. But that happens wherever you are. You know what I mean? It happens wherever you are. The same thing happens when those people who live in Africa, live there and look, there are men that run away. There are men that go to places. There are men that seek opportunities elsewhere. There are men that will not take care of their responsibilities. Again, I find it disingenuous. Like, we're trying. I feel like we're trying to create a narrative that men are going over these places, impregnating the women. Impregnating the women, and then suddenly, suddenly just dip off and leave. Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening? I don't know. Like, I don't really hear many of those stories. That's why I'm saying I keep hearing women say it, but they're not even in that country to say it. Most of the time, this comes from people who are on our side, the Western culture side, saying those stories. But I don't really get to see it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying we don't really get to see it as stuff. So I don't know. But I mean, like, I have to be open to it. Do you know what I mean?
child support. A lot of African ladies might not bother you for child support because in cultures like mine, as long as you as a man has not paid the dowry of that lady and she gives birth to you, that child does not belong to you. It belongs to her family and you have no rights to claim that child. And many of you seem to think that African women are naive and you can do anything we like and go scot-free. Well, a lot of African ladies are actually educated. A lot of African ladies will deal with you, and depending on the kind of family they are from, your life will be messed up. You will forever.
No, pause. I love that. But you're making their point. You're making the Passport Bros point. A lot of these African women are what? Educated. This is the point they're trying to make. I'm not saying I agree with everything Passport Bros do, but I'm saying you're making their point. When they say that, because when they say they're coming over and they're meeting educated women, they're meeting women that are intelligent, are beautiful, and are quote unquote submissive and feminine. That's their point. So you just made their point by saying a lot of African women are educated. That's the point. That is the whole point. We're not trying to your original when she started with they're meeting poor people. But how are they going to get away with it? So why would you make a point that a lot of women now are educated? You can't get away with it. Abi, that's what we're talking about. They want to meet these type of women. This is the kind of women they're trying to meet. The educated, intelligent women. They're trying to meet them. And the reason why they're trying to meet them is because, again, Like I said, because the equivalent of that in their market will have them outpriced. Just saying. You know, I don't know, my mind works.
Ever dealing with that lady. And in case you don't know, there's something called juju, magic. Those
Baby, stop that nonsense about it's juju and magic. If you was working, you'd have got the men in your country ready to do it. Stop that nonsense. I'm tired of that. Stop that. Stop trying to use fear. If you was working, you would have done it for the men in your own country. It doesn't work like that. Let's not do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that juju doesn't work. I'm not saying juju doesn't do anything, but I'm saying we're not going to use that as a frightening tool when you can't even do that for the own men in your country. Stop that nonsense. Let's not go there, right? And it's like things like this, what I say, it becomes, it's not really about the issue anymore. It's about how you feel. And so we start saying some of these things. I'm like, bro, now we're talking about juju. Now we're talking about the black magic. Baby, come on. Stop that. Stop that. Like, why we doing that?
Husband because of man shortage.
Hold
Don't
on.
go on in southern.
This is the original video.
If I sleep
Hold
with
on.
women in America, but if I sleep with women,
This is the original video that started the conversation.
Passport bros are just predators.
I'm not a predator if I sleep with women in America. But if I sleep with women outside of America, I'm a predator. Got you. Guess that means you stop sleeping with people in different states too, right? You live in Florida. Don't sleep with somebody in Chicago. You're a predator. Logic. The obesity rate in a different country is not as high as America. Stay here and sleep with all the mammoths. Got it? Women in other countries are nice and they look good. Stay here. Deal with somebody who's nice but don't look good. Or deal with somebody who looks good and wants to rob you passively. Nice. I don't think she used logic. I don't think logic matters to her. She's not happy at all. She keeps on forgetting to use her Planet Fitness membership.
We don't talk enough.
I'm going to pause here because I have to give a balanced equation side. His rhetoric tells me there's a problem in this. There's a problem with the way he looks at women, right? Or the way he feels about certain women, right? Why is it that as she's making her point about predators, you're complaining about her using inflammatory language, but then your next thing out of your mouth is to insult her by saying, at least by quote unquote, linking her saying about, you know, her being a mammoth or obese women being mammoths. Why do we have to be disrespectful? Do you know what I mean? Like, you retaliating fire with fire doesn't prove anything but make us look bad. And I say us as men, quote unquote, just men in general. But it makes your Passport Bros situation, as you're talking about it, bad. Because it could have been a respectful drag, but then when you add the insults into it, it further enhances their point, which is that y'all just be putting black women down. And then it just escalates into that the use of your content as as a focal point. Say, look, black men are always putting black women down, and that's why they're coming into these places. It's like, see, this is what I'm talking about. You don't need to be in that place, bro. You could have made a simple point about saying, do you know what, she's wrong about it being predator. You kept it as, okay, if I go to Chicago, but then when you add the insults into there, that's where we have a problem, sir. We cannot have the insults when you want to just be able to discuss a situation that you disagree with. That's not how it works. Yes, Bobby M. It takes a level of maturity, and I don't like those kind of things. We need to grow up from that. You know what I mean? So this is another video I was also played as well.
Off. They are not going to want to date a passport bro that does not have a lot of money. Wealthy women in developing nations are what we call crazy uber rich. They are so well off that you could not even compare. Your dinky life in America would be a massive downgrade. So when people are saying, oh, these countries have a high standard of living, the wealthy folks in those countries, such as my motherland, China, for instance, is a wonderfully nice place to live. If you have education, if you have the means. My cousin in China lives extremely well, better than most people I know in America. So people who have it made in their home countries have it made. They are not interested in dating a passport bro who literally is unable to afford his life in America and is going to a developing nation just to take advantage of currency arbitrage. Well,
let's pause there Because again, this is the problem. This is the problem. This is the problem we're having here. What she just said proves what I just said again. She just said, look, the people in some of these countries, the very people at the very, very top, they earn so much money, they wouldn't even date you. Why? Because they feel like they're dating down. Exactly. So, of course, it's economies of dating. And besides, we know that women don't date down. They tend to date up. So, of course, them going into a country where, go into any country you go into, and somebody earns considerable amount of money, i.e. women earn a considerable amount of money, they're not going to want to date down. They're going to want to date up because men date down. So where are we going with this point? That has always been the case. At least we believe that always been the case, right? That women are hypergamous because of the positions of men and women in society. That women tend to date up. So if they already earn a considerable amount of money, of course they're not going to want to date a passport bro. But of course, the people who don't earn a considerable amount of money are going to want to date up as well. That is a system that we have. That's why I said I don't think necessarily it's predatory, because it is a system. You want to be able to have a system where you, not even you, but you're pointing out a part of the system where somebody earns an amount of money, they wouldn't look down at the men coming in. Fan-freaking-tastic. Yes. Yes, I love that. So when the men come in who earn a lot of money in the exchange come in, the women below them are going to look at them. So why is it now that you make it an issue? Because the very women who are making too much money are not looking down. What do you want them to do? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're killing yourself with your own argument, because those very women will not date down. That's the issue. That is the issue. That is the economy we're talking about in dating. That's your biggest issue. That's it. The supply and demand in the situation. There's not a lot of supply for women. There's not a lot of demand for women who earn a lot of money, because the supply is low. There's not enough supply for it. So of course, when the men get into a situation where they come into an economy, they realize the women date up. Therefore, the women who are below them economically will want them, and that means they have more options. And as you notice, the very women who are very wealthy have to date within their bracket range or above. That was your point, and you proved exactly what I was talking about. That's why some of these guys go over and say, I'm not saying that's every single guy. I'm saying that I believe that from what I've seen so far seems to be the actual case of it. The reality is these men are not telling the full truth in the sense of this. We get priced out in our own country, so we're going to another country not to be priced out. Secondly, I want to be a king in my country. I cannot be a king in my country because I'm not looked at as a king in my country because I don't have power, wealth, and status. But if I go to another country, I am going to be looked at as a king. Because when you are looked at as a king, you have your options, and you have the ability to have the option of the spoils. So that's what these men are looking for. Really and truly, what these men are really looking for is to become kings, to have the option of the spoils, to have a plethora of women at your disposal whenever you want to choose whoever you want to choose. That's the reality. Money talks.
Wealthy, successful women with means that come from good families with a lot of money do not want to date you. So then what happens? What happens is the passport bros self-select. And so when I'm saying they're going after destitute women in destitute countries, what I'm saying is they're going to developing nations, to the women who are coming from not having means. And with the women don't have means, then all of a sudden the green card looks kind of interesting. For the women with means, the green card is nothing. They're not interested. They have a better quality of life staying home. So again, you must understand that women who are doing well in their developing nations do not want you there. They don't want you there. They don't want you to harass their less fortunate sisters. And nobody is excited about meeting somebody who literally said, I cannot make it in this country. And even the ones that can make it in this country, the ones that are really, really well off and can't seem to find a good woman out of a 330 million population, those people tend to have, even if they have a lot of money, tend to have massive personality flaws, massive personality character flaws. I know, because I've dated quite a few wealthy people, and I'm like, oh, Like, I would not put up with this shit for any amount of money. So again, they have to go to areas and locations where people are willing to deal with it. So it is exactly what the Passport Bros want. And it is an exchange of a quid pro quo. It is, I have something you want. It's either money or a green card or immigration. And you have something I want, which is sex, good looks, ability to clean my house and cook for me. Just tell it as it is, guys.
And that's literally what it is. That's exactly what it is. You know what I mean? That's exactly what it is. And I don't like the word destitute, because destitute means somebody who is without the basic necessities of life. I don't like the word destitute, because it's not your equivalent of basic is not their equation of basic, right? What we're talking about oftentimes is luxury. Having a TV is a luxury. It's not a basic. Like, do you know what I mean? Having a mobile phone necessarily is not a basic, it's a luxury, but we would call it a basic in our country. So I'm very careful when you talk about obviously destitute, because destitute is obviously dependent on what kind of environment you come from. Now, of course, let me just say this as well. The girls that I've seen on the videos, I've not seen them not have. Again, I can't even say 100%. I can only give my experience in terms of what I've seen when I've even gone back to Ghana. If you go to some people, some of these girls have their own money, they're doing their own thing. Maybe some of them having a little bit of a business, whatever, but they're not rich. So they're assuming that you're rich. Do you know what I'm saying? Some of these girls will have their money, they'll have their cars, or even have their phones, whatever, but not necessarily have everything in tow. Like, they won't have all the luxuries in tow. Do you know what I mean? So when you come over, they're thinking that you're rich. They think you got money. So they're gonna come and see you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, well, you got money. Okay. All right. So it's a transaction between the two people. They understand where they're coming from. He understands where they're coming from. You know, they you know what I mean. So for me, I don't know. I'm not agreeing to necessarily them choosing destitute women per se. I think it might towards you the way you're looking at it, but I necessarily wouldn't say destitute. If someone can eat their food on a daily basis, if someone can pay their bills on a daily basis, you know what I mean? I mean, is it destitute in this country when you're barely getting by on your bills? Is it destitute when you're barely able to pay your bills in your own country, and a man chooses you, and then it ends up paying your bills? Is that destitute though? Would you describe the women in your own country as destitute? I'm saying, if we're going to hold that line, are we going to hold the same line in our own countries? For you personally, if you can barely pay your bills, you're in debt in credit cards, you have all the luxury items, but you're really in debt and you're not really got much money, and you meet a man that's got a money of means, are you destitute too? So then, is a man who chooses you who's six figures, and you ain't got six figures, is he being predatory to you in your own country? That's my only kind of issue. I feel like is it translatable? Are you going to translate it? And maybe I'm seeing it one-sided. Maybe I'm not seeing all the different aspects. I'm always willing to be open to the conversation, but I'm being very careful not to. Do you know what I mean? I think everybody knows what it is. You go over to this country, they know what it is. You know what it is. Do you know what I mean? That's what I would say. You know what it is. They know what it is. Right? I think that's my reality here. Like, they know what it is. You know what it is. And I think everybody knows the reality of this situation is you go over there, you're gonna look like a king. You're gonna have to pay all the bills because your money's gonna cover this situation. Fantastic. But as long as you know that and you know what it is, and she knows what it is, hey, then it is what it is. Do you know what I'm saying? So long as you know it is what it is, then I'll rock with it. You know what I'm saying? So okay, well, if we're calling it predatory, then okay, that's all it is, Denisha. It's a lower threshold. That's all I see it is. You know, I see it as a lower threshold. You know, so for me, that's how I look at it. You know what I mean? specifically seeking them out because you can have power over them. Again, I think I would say that some people are doing that. I don't know if that's all. I think people are very much aware of the dynamics between the two. That someone might look at you as being the sole provider, so they may again, quote unquote, be, I don't like using that word, but submissive, and be more open to you leading in that particular instance. I definitely don't. I'm not saying that. I'm not ruling it out and saying there isn't people who are literally seeking for power. That's absolutely true. But that's in every circumstance. That is not just going abroad for passport bros. That is everywhere you see men. That is the very men that you look up on your screens. Do you know what I'm saying? So that is not isolated to passport bros. That's what I'm trying to get people to. It's not isolated to them. It's everywhere when you have men. There are really bad men who want power everywhere. And it doesn't matter how much economical money you have. The fact that they have power, they feel that they can use it anyhow, anyway. So I'm not labeling the whole of the passport bro movements that term, because I don't think it's just that, No, that's fair. Hopefully, OC. I'm saying that. I'm saying that. From what I've seen too, that's not what I'm seeing. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing people that maybe one can't get gal. They can't get the same type of gal in the country, okay, as they have in other countries. Okay, you know. And this is no. This is exactly. Thank you. No. This is it. This is exactly it. No. This is exactly it. The problem is people are talking too damn much. That's my biggest issue. No. They've been doing it for so long, but people talk too much, and that's the biggest issue. Absolutely right. No. I'm not gonna lie to you. People talk too much. You know what I mean? People talk too much. So yeah, in terms of power, like I keep saying, if you date Chris Brown, who has the power in that relationship? Chris Brown. If you're not on Chris Brown's level, you do not have the power in that situation. I'm sorry, he has power, wealth, and status, can get any girl at any time, can replace you at any time. He's gonna have the majority of power. Power dynamics happen everywhere you go. Let's get another video up. Now here is the real issue with the passport bros that I have. Here's the real issue. This is one of the real issues I have with passport bros in this situation. Listen to this, right?
In Colombia, and I have a chick in every country I've been to now. I got a chick in Colombia. We keep in touch, but we don't talk every day. I know she's messing around with other dudes, whether she wants to admit to it or not. And I also don't care. But some of y'all are putting so much trust and you're getting your heart broke because you think a motherfucker in another country ain't fucking while you gone. And I'm sorry to say that may be true that sometimes. I've had one chick I felt like in Brazil, she wasn't doing nothing. I still always kept in the back of my mind that there's a chance. And if you don't keep in the back of your mind that there's a chance, when you find out, you're going to end up wanting to hurt yourself. I stopped trusting women so much, I don't care what continent they're on. It's not just U.S. women. And another thing
So the reality is, he don't trust women in general. He don't trust women in general. In general, he doesn't trust women in general. And that's his biggest issue. So the reality is, they're not going there to, not all of them, but some of them are not going there to marry. That's the reality. Some of the people are not going there to marry. They're going there to have girlfriends, sex. Basically, they're going there to expand their economical options when it comes to dating. That's the reality of it. And I'm not mad at that, bro. I can't lie to you. I'm not mad at it. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so long as you're not impregnating people and leaving them, listen, bro, that's your business. So long as everybody knows what they're doing, that's the business. You know what I mean? I'm not about to start shouting you down. I don't need to call somebody a predator. I don't need to do all those kind of things. If you know that you're going there just to have sex with these people, okay, and that's what you're going for, more fire to you. It's not my business, bro. It's not my thing. I'm not about to start promoting it. It's not my thing. If that's what you're going for, bro, that's your thing. That's the thing. You know what I mean? That's your thing. Why am I mad at it? Why am I going to be mad at it? Do you know what I mean? Why am I going to be mad at it? You feel me? I agree. But if your next point is then to down black women, then we have an issue. You know what I mean? If you're saying that you're going over there because black women are not doing enough, then we have an issue. If you're saying you're going over there because black women are not feminine and submissive, then we have an issue. I'm not saying that that can't be part of the issues, but if we're saying that, yeah, you're moving mad, right? You're moving mad. You should not be out here screaming and shouting from the top of your lungs that you're out here claiming that women are easy. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop it. You know what I mean? That's my issue with them. I mean, telling us you're going to go and marry when a lot of you are not going to marry. But let's listen to another point of view. You know, I brought a lot of
boys and passport bros. Are you going to the Philippines to look for a Filipina queen or what? So stop calling yourself passport boys and passport bros. Start calling yourself passport kings. That's right. You are a passport kings. Now, if you're going to the Philippines to just pack around, pull around, screw around as many women as you want, then call yourself passport bros and passport boys. Otherwise, if you want to go to the Philippines to look for a Filipina queen and she will treat you like a king, then you better start calling yourself passport king. Understood? Good.
Hey.
23, got my fitness game strong, about to go make it happen. But first and foremost, thanks to everyone that posted on the previous video about passport bros confusion. Ladies, this video is not for you. This is going to be about the guys and actually speaking to the confusion of passport bros movement. But I remain in my stance with you ladies. This starts with you. Okay, to have this conversation, some of you that are angry about this movement need to understand the bigger picture about this. And we're going to talk about that more in future videos. But fellas, let's first and foremost, RIP Charles Tyler, and shout out Tailor Made Dreams that's continuing the movement for Brother Tyler. But Passport Bros is a new wave that was actually started with Charles Tyler, Passport Kings. So everybody that's on the Passport Bros movement needs to understand the origination of Passport Kings. But here's the shocking truth. There's a lot of fellas out there that think that it started with Passport Kings. Wrong. Fellas, this has been going back since the 60s. There was actually a write-up in Ebony magazine back in the 60s about men that are going to other countries for marriage. But what is the true narrative about what's being pushed today? Because it has gotten so skewed with regards to the true purpose of getting out. First of all, fellas, especially my black brothers, we need to understand that it is more than just about women. As a guy that's had his passport for 20 years now, it is about understanding the culture and the experience that you can get from other countries. There is no doubt that the American culture is really messed up and has, for many different reasons. There's a reason why American culture is messed up, and that is a completely different topic. But a lot of you guys got it twisted. You don't even understand what the movement's about. Sure, when you go out into these other countries, you can find how to be treated as a man from a lot of women that American women don't embrace today in today's culture. But that is just a piece of the pie. And fellas, if you're not doing your research, you're doing yourself a huge disservice by jumping on this Passport Bros bandwagon and not knowing what you're talking about. Let's talk about it. All right, what's up, everybody?
Interesting. Okay. I just found a lot of clips that were just doing this stuff.
I was thinking about this. Why do they care? Why do they?
There's another one.
With Passport Bros.
So I was thinking about this. Why do they care? Why do they care that men are going their own way and finding women in foreign countries? Why are they so upset? Why do they call them dusty and useless and then get mad that they're leaving? They don't want them, but they don't want them to leave. And why are they making these videos? To tell us how they don't care. And it finally struck me. The video is not for the Passport Boys. The videos are for their orbiters, the friend zone men. They want to make sure they don't get this idea in their head that they can go somewhere else, that there are other women available to them if they just leave the country. They need these men to stay in their orbit, to keep validating them. That is what they're terrified, is they will lose the influence they have amongst the few men who still put up with them.
Hey, that's a white brother. Just want to let you know, this passport bro thing is not a black thing. It's a man thing. And that's why I keep saying it again, like, yo, the passport bros is bigger than just black folk. But when it ends up being about black folk, it gets annoying because it's like, no, they're not the only ones doing this. Like, you'd be like, oh, only black men do it. No, it's across the board. I showed you another white guy that was Italian. It's across the board. And you think that it's only black women that are complaining, black men are complaining about black women, white men are complaining about their women, Asian men are complaining about their women, other races are complaining about their women. Everybody's complaining about their women. Whether they're true or not makes no difference. They're complaining. The biggest issue that within our own community, okay, the biggest issue within our own community is that we're in the community. So we actually hear a lot of the conversations that happen. But you get out of your community and get into others, and you'll start to see that they have the same kind of conversations, right? They do have the same kind of conversations, same kind of thoughts, same kind of feelings. This is why feminism existed in the first place, because misogynistic was really about white men and their dominance. It's the same thing across the board. It's not no different. It's not because it's black people are doing passport bros, that black men are the only one doing this. No, it's across the board. Across the board. You know what I mean? But yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, let's see another one. Oh, the same guy.
Men, just in general. I'm not talking about a certain. Oh, just to clarify, I don't want any man to feel left out. When I'm talking about passport bros, I'm talking about all y'all men, just in general. I'm not talking about a certain race. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about all passport bros, because bros is men across all races. Just wanted to keep that clear. All right, just take a look. Most of the time when people are talking about passport bros, we're talking about Western men in general that tend to go to places like the Far East or Latin America now, or Africa, or wherever else, conveniently where they're not going to Sweden. They're not going to Finland, because those countries don't have thriving sex businesses. And those women are pretty expensive to upkeep. So that is why it's no coincidence that passport bro activity is socioeconomically interlinked, which is why it negates the whole entire argument for looking for a traditional good woman. It negates the whole argument, because once you threw in socioeconomic status and the humongous disparity in wealth between developing nations that are oftentimes exploited by developed nations, specifically the men coming for them, these passport bros, once you throw that in the mix, you can no longer have a valid argument that you're going there for the culture or for the traditional values or for the whatever. You're going there because of economic exploitation. Just keep it straight, keep it up front. Just say, I can't afford a woman in my own neighborhood because I lack the resources to do so. I need to go to a different country where they desperately need me for my money, and I'm looking to isolate them due to language barriers. Keep it real. Keep it real. Tell the truth. Don't freaking try to make this a whole like moral quest when it's not. It's just money. Like most things are very straightforward. It's just money. That's all.
I absolutely 100% agree with her as well. It is simply just money. It's simply just money. In most cases, that is the case, right? But again, as well, like I said, and yeah, CPUC just kind of said it as well. We are in those other countries as well, to be honest. Again, once more, and the guy that I would say was obviously Italy as well. What my thing is also as well with this situation is, like I said, just say it straight, but also as well understand as well there is an added component to it, right? The added component is also as well how you are acknowledged. Okay, how you are acknowledged, right? How are you seen? How are you treated? How are you appreciated as well, right? I'm not going to say that this is all black men or even all black women that goes, but when you go out of your pond, your natural pond, into another pond, depending on what pond you go into, you can be considered exotic. You can be considered somebody who is favorable. You can be seen as somebody who's unique. You can be seen as so much. You know what I mean? You can be seen as and be praised for it and glorified for it. As well. And that is an aspect that I think a lot of the situation also misses as well. Some of these men just want to be praised, and some of them in a good way, some of them in a bad way. But a lot of men just want to be praised. We want to be able to be appreciated. I like I said, we did a live the other day, men's panel only, and we started talking about our feelings, and some people didn't even realize we were talking about our feelings. So clearly there is something that happens in the market. I'm not blaming black women, by the way, because like I said, me personally, I've experienced black women, and I've experienced bad ones, and I've experienced amazing ones. I'm not going to make it a thing where it's like, oh my God, black women are this. No. I've experienced great ones and amazing ones, and I've experienced some ones that are really bad as well. So, so listen, honestly, I agree there are some things that are not great about Passport Bros. I just think to myself, that we have to be real as well and say that there is some reason as people are going over to these places because they're going to be kings economically, and also because they're going to be viewed as such and they're going to be treated as such, as well a lot of times. So yeah, that traditional that we're talking about is also encompassed in economics, because the traditional setup is because people have finances and money. Anyway, I need to get off this in a sec, so let me do the last few TikToks so you guys can see. I think I've done all the TikToks that I've done actually. Okay, cool. I want to do one last. I think because this was a video that was shared, and I think it was really good, right? Okay. And this is what I think Passport Bros or any other community can learn from, right? Because I agree with a lot of the things they say, but some of the things they say is awful. Let's go.
Why did you get to that place where you thought to yourself, well, I might be single forever?
Pretty privileged, and like growing up and then dating, I was literally never desired. Like I was the girl that guys came to spit at my homegirls. And I was crying out. I'm like, God, if I'm the person that you need me to be single until I die. But I was like at that level of peace and acceptance that like this happily ever after isn't for everyone.
A lot of Black women say that they get much more love and appreciation from non-American men. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Black women do get taken for granted in the US. And there is an appreciation and an adoration and an admiration that international men do have for Black women. And this is fetish aside, hypersexualization aside. There is this like, oh my goodness, you're a goddess. And what have I done to be so lucky to be in your presence? And that can be overwhelming because you might not be used to that.
At whatever point, I guess when you had that conversation with God, you said, I want my next greatest adventure to be love.
There's this thing called a Eurail pass. And you basically can take a first-class train to 33 countries. I think at any given moment, I was probably chatting with 12 like quality men. And I took away preferences. Like after I realized
at any given moment, I was talking to 12 quality men.
Black women, please
We're not
go to Europe.
Pretend that this is not a bar.
Now, I'm going to say this. Why did she said, first one I want to say this. I believe Passport Bros and other men, okay, can actually learn something from what she said. I always talk about presentation and delivery is absolute king, right? See what she did there? Not once did she trash the men necessarily. She didn't trash the men. She didn't say black men are bad or anything like that. She didn't say that these black men. All she said was she was undesirable. That's what the men need to be saying. That's what I need the men to be at. Hey, you know what? In our country, we don't feel appreciated. We don't feel like we're loved. We don't feel like this, right? And keep it pushing. And then you go abroad and you get your woman. That's it, right? You don't have to add the extra tidbits, which I feel sometimes I do hear, not just even from Passport Bros, but from some of these people in these movements about black women. It doesn't need to be added. If you feel like you're getting praised, you're getting you're getting appreciated in other countries, you're being seen as a king, that's presentation. You know what I'm saying? Your presentation is the most important thing. That's my biggest issue, presentation. And some of these people, they choose words that are going to be fighting words. You know what I mean? And that's my biggest issue. One of my biggest gripes with them. And while I had that conversation last time when I was on the channel, it's like, look, you know, so I'm saying again, look, at the end of the day, I'm not mad if you go elsewhere to be considered. I'm not mad. Right? I'm not mad at that. What I need you to do is go over. If you're saying you're undesirable, you're saying that women don't care for you, fantastic. Go to another place. But you don't have to start adding the extra stuff in there. Oh, women are not submissive. Well, they're not dating you, so it doesn't matter if they're submissive or not. You know what I mean? Like, so just take yourself elsewhere. You don't have to trash the other side to be able to uplift. And that's where I'm saying about the biggest issue. That's where our biggest issue is. So go to where you need to go to, appreciate who you need to appreciate, but you don't need to denigrate and decimate your own women to do so. That's my ending plot with them. That's my biggest thing with them at the end. So yeah, that's what I would say. And the reason why I didn't use the reason why I didn't use all the other people is because I wanted to give a different side of things. I wanted to give different opinions because I know there are other people out there. I know there are black males out there, etc. But I wanted to give a whole nuance that it's not just black folk. This is a universal thing that's happening. It's international. It's across all races. It's not just black men. This is happening across. Like Passport Bros is not just the black men. It is across. So that's why I was saying that. So that's the only reason why I didn't use specific kind of people for it. You know what I mean? So yeah, so if you're going to do it, Mandem, if you're going to go there, get your passports, fantastic. Go over there with your passports. Go over there. Go over there, enjoy yourself. Do what you got to do. But please, leave the woman's name out your mother freaking mouth. Leave it out. Just leave it out your mouth. And focus on what you want to do. You're over there because you believe they're going to look at you as a king. Fantastic. You're over there because you believe you'll be better taken care of. Fantastic. You're over there, and you're gonna be given the plaudits. Love that. Leave the woman's name out your mouth. Okay, and also black women too. Please stop coming after these men. You don't want them. Stop going after them. It's giving I'm in the Stockholm syndrome. If you don't want them, leave them. Why are you talking about men that you don't even want? Leave them. Okay, leave them. And I say black women, it's not all black women. It's a specific group. I don't even like saying it. There are a specific group of black women, and there's a specific group of black men who are doing these things, who have the loudest voice in the room, who are not talking for the rest of us, because most of us ain't even in this thing, right? Most of us are not even in this thing. So I'm saying for a specific group of you black women, a specific group of you black men, and then the black men, leave the woman's name out your mouth, and the black women too, stop talking on these Passport Bros because it has nothing to do with you, and two, you don't want them. So stop talking about undesirable people because you don't want them. And everybody stay in your lane. That's it. And we can all get on with our life. You know what I mean? We can all get on with our life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's it. So and I got another live I got to do, guys. We're going to talk about Sierra and T.Y. Nicholas situation with Jason Whitlock. We're gonna break that down as well for you guys. So yeah, it'd be like that. All right. So make sure you like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked and stay loaded. We'll see you again very, very soon. Much love. Choo choo.